Hey, what's up? I'm Mr. Honish and welcome to my flipped classroom. Today we check out Northern Europe and its two very distinct regions of Scandinavia and the British Isles, both of which hold a special place in my heart. Scandinavia due to Finland's awesome education system, which I constantly refer to and compare our American system to in class, if you have noticed that yet. And the British Isles for giving us One Direction. What? I don't like One Direction. I'm an adult and a guy, so there's no way I would think Story of My Life is a touching look inside the personal lives of these young public figures. No, for real, the British Isles are important to me because of Chelsea FC and James Bond. Well, enough about my personal ties. Let's talk about physical geography. Northern Europe is completely made of islands and peninsulas, which means water plays a large role there. Long ago, glaciers moving through the area carved huge chunks out of the western coast of Norway, and when they melted, they created these inlets of water surrounded by mountains known as fjords. That's right, there's a J in there, but it sounds like a Y. To best describe what a fjord looks like, all I can say is, think Arendelle. Seriously, the movie Frozen is likely set in what would be present-day Norway. Melting glaciers also form most of the lakes in the region here as well. Based on the latitude of this area, you might expect incredibly cold temperatures and frozen icy landscapes, but because of the water, that is not the case. North Atlantic Drift is an ocean current that brings warm, moist air which has a moderating effect on the climate. The British Isles, Denmark, southern Iceland, and western Norway receive plentiful rainfall and short winters, while the rest of Norway, Sweden, and Finland have a continental climate, with 4 true seasons, much like here in Wisconsin. Northern Iceland and the far northern reaches of Norway, Sweden, and Finland are closer to the freezing tundra you might expect for a latitude this far north. Now, thanks to the climate and fairly level land with fertile soil, the southern British Isles and southern Scandinavia have very good farmland. Northern Scandinavia is much more mountainous, making farming more difficult, but there are plenty of other resources such as oil and gas deposits in the North Sea, and timber throughout Norway, Sweden, and Finland, fishing in the Atlantic and North Sea, hydroelectric power from rivers and streams, and geothermal energy created by the hot springs of Iceland. Now we'll break down each region to examine some important history notes and look at the culture, governments, and economies of today. The British Isles have some of the most important history of anywhere in the world, but we're going to overly simplify it. According to historians and paleontologists and whatnot, there were people in the British Isles about 5,000 plus years ago, and they built this thing we now call Stonehenge, which is something we like to point to as a lasting legacy from those people. The more fun explanation is aliens did it, but there's no official proof of that, so that's all I can really say. About 2,500 years ago, the next significant group came, known as the Celts, and they settled lots of present-day Ireland, Scotland, and Wales, and is now the namesake of Boston's NBA team, except they butchered the pronunciation, and they aren't as good as the Bucks. 2,000 years ago, it was under Roman control at the height of their empire, but all empires fall when they get too big to support, and the British Isles switch hands again. A lesson they should have remembered in the early 1900s. Foreshadowing! 1,000 years ago, a bunch of groups came in and created small kingdoms, and in 1066 they kind of unified and became more like a modern England, which over the next 500 years would become fabulously wealthy and build up a huge navy that would be able to travel around the globe claiming lands for England's empire in the 16, 17, and 1800s. Most of the reason for creating an empire was to collect raw materials to send home to fuel the Industrial Revolution of the 17 and 1800s, which really saw England jump to the forefront of world power and become arguably the most advanced country on Earth. That wasn't quite enough to stop rebellions in certain areas of the empire, but let's just say they were doing pretty well. They took that opportunity to unify further into what is now known as the United Kingdom, a combination of England, Wales, Scotland, and at that time, all of Ireland. By the time World War I rolled around, the Great Depression and World War II came along, The idea of a global empire no longer made sense because they were now dirt poor and kind of just fought two wars on the principle of countries being free to choose their own leaders and make their own decisions, which made their empire look super hypocritical. What the empire accomplished as a lasting impact today, though, is the spread of the English language, which is now the most common business language in the world, and often the most popular second language to learn in non-English speaking countries. English sports such as football. You mean soccer! Football was invented in America! Rugby and cricket are now popular in the Middle East, South and East Asia, South Africa, Australia, New Zealand, and the South Pacific because of their spread during the age of British Empire. Economically and politically, the United Kingdom and Ireland are EU members and neighbors that still don't quite trust each other. Ireland was in a very similar boat as Greece, Spain, and Portugal around 2008-ish, but they have become one of the biggest post-recession success stories, and their unemployment levels have stabilized, and Ireland has attracted lots of investment from foreign businesses. The United Kingdom, in the meantime, has become fairly skeptical of the EU idea, and many Brits have suggested leaving the Union altogether. They have needed to play the role of lender and use their relative economic stability to help member nations that were struggling. Giving loans out to other countries has been a thorn in the side of their own economy, but is not the only issue the UK faces right now. Scotland has gone to referendum on possible independence from the UK. And that is probably a debate that will continue for some time, as opinions on the matter are relatively evenly split. The UK has also had a long-lasting friendship with the US, especially in the wake of World War II, which many of its citizens fully supported during the Cold War era when they were united against the Soviets and they relied on each other for safety. But feelings toward the US have cooled since Britain has joined US forays into Iraq and Afghanistan, which many Brits were against. In the future, I would not be surprised to see a growing global role for Ireland and a slew of international issues that must be dealt with for the UK making headlines. Over in Scandinavia, the history makes us think of one thing and one thing only: Vikings. The Vikings were great sailors, explorers, and warriors, and quickly plundered many local kingdoms throughout the region. After the age of the Vikings ended about 1,000 years ago, the Kingdom of Denmark became the most powerful in the region and ran the kingdoms of Norway, Sweden, and Finland, but did it relatively peacefully. It all shook out okay for each country, and everyone had gained their independence by the early 1900s. Recently, the countries of Iceland, Denmark, Norway, Sweden, and Finland have largely stayed out of international problems and focused on turning themselves into some of the world's most economically and socially successful countries in the world. For instance, all 5 countries are in the top 38 in the world for GDP per capita, ranking higher than the EU average and notable countries such as the UK. What is perhaps most impressive is they have maintained high income while also providing for their people, evidenced by all 5 ranking among the 27 lowest infant mortality rates, and the killer education system, including Finland's free college for anyone in the world that would like to move there to pursue their studies. Seriously! In fact, the 5 countries of Scandinavia rank among the top 6 developed countries in education expenditures. The US comes in around 26th in that category. America! This might explain some test scores. Besides education, I would like to point out some other really awesome aspects of Scandinavian life. First of all, the summer is a time to take extended holiday with family and friends. In Sweden, for instance, many businesses run significantly reduced hours in July while they take off for lake house hideaways where they fish, swim, read, sightsee, and just relax in general for up to a month. The drink of choice for Scandinavians is coffee. Coffee earned this role partially because of how far north they are in latitude, which leads to really short daylight hours in the winter months, meaning they fuel up on caffeine to stay awake easily in the dark. But you won't find a 12-car line at the drive-thru of the Helsinki Starbucks on their way to the office, though. Coffee in Scandinavia is meant to be enjoyed from an actual mug, sitting at an actual table, while reading a newspaper or chatting with a friend. Crazy, I know. Scandinavians love the sauna, too. The intense heat is seen as a way to release feelings of tension as well as physical toxins in the body. Many Scandinavians will head straight from the sauna to go jump into a freezing lake in the wintertime as well. Fun! And then possibly my favorite thing about life in Scandinavia. These 5 countries lead the world in the number of heavy metal bands per capita. So I think I probably got a little too biased on my viewpoints on this video, and I realized Scandinavia is probably not for everyone, especially if you think long work hours, privatized healthcare, and military spending are the way to go. I don't necessarily know which country we live in that fits that bill, but just saying. America! It's possible not everyone is as enamored with Scandinavia as me. If I offended you with my beliefs that Finland has life figured out, I apologize. But for now, go study. And until next time, bye-bye!
This is more than 6 minutes.
6 minute long bloopers are not something I want to do on every video.
What? Come on, my
Lucky that we
bloopers
did
are
that
awesome.
one time.
No, because every time I film, I always do awesome stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. You never know what I'm gonna say.
Brazil flag for this one to make me a green burrito.
Well, we could do American flag burrito.
No, what does that have to do with Northern Europe? Nothing.
Here, I got
Here.
it. Oh, here, we got it. Put it right in front of the camera.
Look up. You were looking, you slowly go down.
Okay, then maybe we're gonna have to change where Jalen is and start over
Do you want me
possibly
to? I could hold
because
it.
You just like, you start up and then you go down and then you go out. It's weird.
I'm not gonna lie, we might have to make the font bigger now though.
Are you blind?
I did get glasses
Are they bifocals?
and I can't wear them when I wear these.
Are they bifocals?
No.
Are you sure they're not bifocals?
Yeah.
Okay.
I forgot mine in the room.
Gurka, I'm sure yours are no different. They're not
Mine are
made to
white,
my
though.
yeah, but they're not made to my prescription, so the point is moot. Dub it in.
Dub it in.
That's the word I'm looking for.
Dub. Are you trying to be hip or something? Dub.
Are you trying to be 70 years old by using the word hip to describe something?
I'm trying to sound like you.
I've never once in the
You-
history of my
yeah.
life
Not
used
hip,
the
Bo.
word hip as an adjective.
Good one, Jay.
I thought you were gonna say hip, and I was like, you just said it.
Yeah, not as an adjective, Gurka.
Okay.
We cool?
Cool.
We hip?
Are you
You
done?
just used it as an adjective.
Yeah, but it was ironically, so it's okay.
No.
No, don't look so stiff. You're like. Don't do that. Or that. No.
Hey,
Why don't you
Are
practice
you
sitting at
dancing?
my globe? Oh, you spelled which wrong.
I spelled what wrong?
Which?
Ooh, yeah, you did. Come on.
Which?
The witch, like, I'm gonna witch you with a magic wand. I don't know.
Leah's big into hexing right now. Thanks, Sophia the First. Despiro! Despiro! Yeah, I'm still here.
That is
I
so
hex
adorable.
you.
Oh.
That's creepy.
It has a name.